I think, man, so it was a couple things, man, I wanted to talk about really, because it's like a lot. Well, not a lot, but it's just one thing that's super interesting is this right here. Another part is like I'm pretty sure, I'm almost 98% sure you're not following, or you weren't following the Julio Fulio murder case.
Zero things, yeah. What's going on there?
Basically, it was a. Do you even know who Julio Fulio was?
No, no, who's that?
He was a rapper in Florida, and he got killed. Um, and it was something about the wasn't necessarily about the trial that really did it for me, but so pretty much it's like this. I'll give you a little bit of background. I think I might have told you this before. For a long time, like in Jacksonville, they just had these rap wars. So people would kill each other and then rap about it. It was a thing. Or shoot at each other and rap about it. Kind of crazy to me, but I think it's probably pretty much crazy to everybody. So it was like two blocks beefing with each other. So this kind of went on, and Julio Fulio would be like a troll. I mean, they both trolling because they more or less like, hey, I killed your people, we smoking on your people, blah, blah, blah. And at some point in time, it's like a year and a half ago, maybe at this point, 2 years ago, four dudes and a girl got together and I guess plotted to kill him. So the first interesting thing about the whole plot is, well, watching the trial, and I didn't really watch it, I'm just catching snippets of it here and there, is that they have footage from these people. So they live in Jacksonville. And most of everybody in the story live in or is from Jacksonville. The murder occurred in Tampa. So I'm assuming it's like 2 hours away or something. From the time they packing up the car and leaving the house to when they get to Tampa, like it's footage. They got cameras from the house when they packing up the cars. They got cameras from the first club where, so basically it's a spotter. One of the dudes, he just follow with the girl and just report on where the dude, the Julio, was at throughout the whole night. So at each one of these clubs, it's camera footage that the police was able to obtain to say, yeah, that's him right there on the phone, across the street, sticking out the victim. Then when the shooting actually happens, it's cameras on the hotel, and they did it next to a Tesla, so a Tesla records HD camera 24/7.
Right, that's crazy.
Right. So it's footage, it's basically video footage of their whole
Whole
trip
crime
to
play by play. That's insane.
exactly. And back to people's houses. Like, yeah, so it's just
Open and shut.
nuts.
So this is when you murdered up. This is where you were when you murdered up. This is how it happened. This is when you talked about it. This is when you were gone on your way. This is when you did it. We have you the whole time.
Right. Correct.
That's insane.
Correct. Yeah, it's insane, but it also speaks to the nature of where we are in society with the cameras and the digital stuff. Like, you might be able to get away with stuff, but it's like 50 if you're gonna be on camera or not. It's not like 10-90. Might even be 60-40, you gonna be on camera somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody saw you doing something.
Right.
But that's the one interesting part about it. But the one that's more the part that's more interesting to me is that this is four dudes, one girl. The girl already went to trial. I don't know, they postponed her. I think she got found guilty of manslaughter and they postponed her sentencing. Then they all of the four of the dudes, they put the trials together and they all got convicted. And in Texas, I mean in Florida, you get convicted of murder first degree. Like, you're not coming home, so all they do is have like a sentencing. I forgot what they call it. Basically, they like, are we gonna kill you or not? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Death
This
penalty
is
right now.
So that's pretty much what it is. And this is a sidebar, but when they do this, I forgot what they call it. They go through this process of where they say mitigating and aggregating factors to say if or if not, we're gonna put the person to death. And somehow the warden of the jail came up and was like, "Yeah, we got a lot of stuff we need done here, so these boys can put in that sweat equity if you put them in here, because we got."
I'm just like, it's just out in the open now. It's just like, so I mean, what about that slavery though? We were gonna do other things, but like slavery. Could we have more of that?
That's exactly what it sound like, right? But at the same time, yeah, I don't even know how I don't know what to say about that. Basically, that's what it sounds like. Um, but at this point, for me, I don't really care because it's like, I mean, what you gonna do anyway? You in jail. You're going to be in jail forever. You're going to die in jail.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing.
Yes.
So that's already settled. They just saying debating now if they're gonna kill you or if they just let God sort it out, I guess.
I mean, are they gonna kill you? Or are they gonna enslave you? These are your choices now. Do you want to live in slavery or do you want to die immediately? What are your what, what are we doing? Great.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, that's where I'm like, that doesn't sound so bad after that. I don't know how long I want to live as a slave. That doesn't sound fun at all.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing for me, right? Am I gonna put them in there and treat them like an orangutan and just be like, "Yo, you just can sit here, we gonna feed you, and you're not gonna do nothing?" Like, I can't envision that either. Like, that doesn't make sense to me either,
It doesn't.
you know? So, you're gonna do some work. I don't know what else you need to do some work
Yes. As
to
a
at the
human
end of the
being,
day.
work is that purpose gives you a reason to live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, you're gonna, you're going to have to do something. But, I mean, that's not I don't even care about that part. The interesting part of me, I just gave you all of that to give you like some background information about the case.
Okay.
So one of these dudes, his name is Sean Gaithwhite or Gathright or something like that. Young dude, I think he's mixed black and white. Um, and like 18, it was like he was 18 when this went down. He's one of the shooters. And the thing that never made sense, so I'm watching this trial because I was kind of was following it from when it started. But I never really understood. First of all, the connection to the gang. I never really got that part, but somehow they figured out they were connected. But this one dude, like I could not understand his story. His story never came together in the sense that like he was like a missionary. He was going to like Africa and Europe and like doing work with his guidance counselor and started his own business at like 2 businesses or something when he was young. I mean, I'm thinking about, like, he's 18 when this happened.
Right.
So, this is a condensed amount of time. It's not like 5, 10 years. Can only be, like, 3 to 4 years that he's doing all of this stuff. And I'm thinking, like, as I'm hearing his story and the people talking about him and being his character witnesses, and I'm like, "What?" I'm thinking, "What is this?" Because it's not adding up. It's not adding up at all for me. And the only conclusion that I could come to was that he wanted to be a part of something. And that's the only conclusion that I could actually come to. And I think for it to be what it became, he didn't care what that something was. It
Right.
was just to be a part of something. Because he out here shooting like this is they got rifles. You know what I'm saying? The guns, they ain't dressed in black. They coming. This is straight like SWAT team type how they came. And I'm just thinking, I just couldn't wrap my head around it, man. And you know me, Imma try to always bring it back to a certain place. We gotta be better at helping people develop themselves. That's now, it could be a lot of other factors to it. Don't get me wrong. They say his father was abusive, you know, but at the same time, father was abusive. He lived around different places. Like he lived in California, he lived in Alabama, he lived in Florida. He was overseas. He was like an uncle, fun with his sister. They can't really figure out how it happened. And I'm thinking like something is off to me about this.
Yeah, it doesn't just
I
add up.
can't I can't yeah. It's just not adding up, man. Like, how do you go to like I will say this, when he gave his so basically he gave an apology. It's he made a statement for himself, you know, just when he's basically pleading for his life. It's pretty much what it sounds. It seems super disingenuous to me. He's in there like, yeah, you know, I think everybody's life has a purpose and God has really touched my life and I think God can work through me and blah, 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 blah. So in my mind, as I'm hearing him, and this is just all speculation, but I'm like, this is a what do they call him? A psychopath.
That's fair.
So
Has a lot of craziness going on, and he definitely sounds either sociopathic or seemed like the person is really having a hard time adjusting. Needed some place to belong, some place to really feel like he mattered. And this is what ended up.
yeah. I mean, it's I guess for me, I think it's just unfortunate that it's some I gotta something has to be done about this. Not necessarily to fix it directly, but you know me, man, I'm always about changing the conversation. Like I just think that there aren't a lot of paths for people to develop. How can I say this? I think there were all paths for people to develop, but I think you got to pick and choose from two limited buckets. That's kind of how I feel about it, and that's unfortunate to me because I just don't think that everybody should fall into. I think everybody should have guidelines. Everybody should have some principles to understand life, but I don't think that they always should be religious principles. But I don't know where you would find those non-religious principles to guide your life today. That's my thing.
Yeah, it's really hard unless you have
Um,
some very key mentors and really important influences. It's hard to make the case that other people are going to find it organically.
yeah. I mean, even if they I think people are believing that they are finding it. I think that the options that they're presented with today are, from what I've seen, are pretty much trash for the most part.
Pretty much trash. That's exactly right.
But
Yeah.
I think that it just that work needs to continue. Somebody needs to continue to do it. I think people have done it in the past, and you could call it poorly. You could say, I don't know. I guess I'm not necessarily looking for an ending to the conversation. I just feel like I just want to contribute to it. That's how I look at it. So
That's fair. Yeah, and you can always just say things that would have helped you
yeah,
growing up and things you would have wished you would have had. So that's always cool to point out. Some of these things are better than others. Some of these things would have been more grounding, clarifying, and helpful just to get you to a point where you could develop, meet some needs, and develop some of your skills.
yeah, that's absolutely what it is. Because that's how whenever I'm writing, that's how I envision it. I never want to be naive about how I'm approaching life because I think a lot of people are naive, right? And that actually might roll into the next point that I'm trying to would like to bring up. But I think a lot of people were like, "Well, I'm doing it for others. I'm doing it forever. I'm being a servant to others, and that's my goal, and that's what drives me." And for me, it's like, no, I'm doing it for me as a kid, and I'm I'm identifying with that vision of the world. And
Right.
so if anybody is aligned with that and needed those things, then that's who I'm aligned with. I'm not actually doing it for the others.
Right. I'm not here to randomly see who's. I'm not here to randomly spit into the wind or just speak into the ether and wish that these, you know, magical others will surprisingly get all kinds of benefits for things that I'm saying and doing. It's like, no, no, they're intentional, specific people, specifically me as a kid, and then those people who have those same values, same goals, and same struggles. Those people should be benefited from these things.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't wish they wouldn't be. It's just that I don't wanna play the role of I know the other. Like, I literally can't know the other. Like, I can believe, I can experience it and all that, but I don't know it.
Not at all. It's like, there are a lot of people in the world. I know myself. I was there for that part. These are the things that would have helped me. These are the things I'm talking to.
Right, right, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. So, interestingly enough for me, right, and hopefully this works, man, because I am fascinated with the leftists. That's that's my new thing, man.
What what differentiates a leftist from like a liberal? How do
I
you
mean,
define left?
I'm not gonna do that, right? I'm not really saying that I'm differentiating the leftist from a liberal. I will let that person do the differentiation. Like, cause we called I brought up that Catherine Liu
Yeah, yeah.
clip when she was on your with Yaron Brook, and she gave her definition of the difference between a leftist and a liberal, which I am aligned with her in many ways.
Okay.
And that's crazy for me to say,
I like
but
that.
I wanted to bring up her talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, a part of this thing that she has on the internet and kind of go through it because, yeah, I never would have thought of. I'm like, yeah, I'm aligned with the leftists on some things. So that's what I wanted to kind of just go through that.
Nice. Let's check it out.
That focus on lived experience, does that come from philosophers such as Levinas, who say that the other is unknowable, that the other is eternal?
Levinas is a kind of metaphysician of intersubjectivity. I do think the other is unknowable. I don't know if but there is a kind of ethical superiority to this kind of respect for the other and the other suffering that I think is a mask for something in psychoanalysis we would call over identification with a traumatic material. And when you, as a subject, over identify with the suffering of the other, you actually don't give them any room to have their experience. You instrumentalize their suffering and you make yourself the agent of cure, recovery, witness, etc. So, in trauma studies, for instance, that came out of Yale University Literature Department, the highest order of ethical, moral activity was actually witnessing the other. And they owed a lot to living us. But I think it's a crypto religiosity that subtends liberalism. And I think that as leftists, we have to be insistent on secularism and agnosticism, which means that you there's a kind of ethical n- ethical way that we should not identify with the suffering of the other, an ethical skepticism about it. Because now, today, young people have received this as a form of self presentation. So, like that, this reification of one's own suffering and identity is the available language of subjectivity. And
I actually gotta give you a little background on this because I skipped into the middle of it. She has an interest in how people are presenting their suffering publicly. It's pretty much it differentiates her from what she calls a liberal. Here's my experience, here's my suffering, and I'm tuned into the suffering and the suffering of people and all of that stuff. So that's something and trauma and suffering. Here's my trauma, here's my baggage, blah, blah, blah. That's that's what she was interested in, and that's what they discussed at the beginning of this video.
All right. Fair enough.
think about what Adorno said about our subjective experiences or our subjectivity is that we are all marbleized with objectivity, with ideology. It's not the Althusserian, we've been hailed, etc. It's like we are actually all pieces of marble with veins of individuality and subjectivity in it that are totally imbricated in objective ideological formations. And so to become a subject is actually a kind of work, a kind of labor that the trauma culture script allows us to bypass, to take a shortcut in, to be able to have this kind of theater of empathy. With young people in America today, they kind of like nod. Everything's like assent. It's like the emoji world, like thumbs up, smiley, and there's this kind of like constant. I think of them as like bobbing heads, nodding with each
Oh
other.
my god, I hope I wasn't nodding.
No, but
So I'll stop it right there, right? Because I think that's fascinating to me in the sense that when she talks about the marbleization of an individuality, like it's this through line. For me, the way that I understand that is for whatever reason, people try to explain life without acknowledging the constraints that you only understand from your perspective. And so when you try to pretend like that's not true, then you kind of get to this place where and it's a similar place. I can't say it's the same place where you just are like, you bypass the whole idea that you have it's a constraint by nature. You have a certain perspective. There's an individual. You exist as an individual, and you can't bypass that. You can't.
Right,
You
there's no
can't.
such thing as
You know,
absolute objectivity. Everybody has a bias, everybody has a perspective. You can't get out of it.
right? But I think sometimes, and I think she may be alluding to this, but I'm not sure. But people think that they ascend to this higher perspective that's beyond themselves, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of times people might identify that with a spirituality in a sense where they think, well, this is th- there's me, and then there's the things that are bigger than me, as if they are not the people who are thinking of the thing that they think is bigger than them.
You're right. It's like, "This includes more than me." I'm like, "It does." In that sense, you can say, "Look, I have expanded. I've done the meta thinking. I'm thinking about thinking. I'm including more than just my perspective." I'm like, "Yes,
Right.
but you're still speaking from your perspective. This is not." And that part
Exactly.
never goes away. You are always using that part, and that's fine because that's how human beings work. But stop pretending like it's not there. Like, that's a level of blindness that's unnecessary. You don't need to have that level of confusion.
Yeah. And I think there's different levels of that confusion in the sense that there are people who are completely oblivious about their own personal experience. And there are people who kind of like just ignore it and only bring it up in certain parts of their lives. So yeah, I just wanted to add that little part.
That's
Um,
fair.
cool. I mean, we can continue unless you got anything else.
but how can we be attendant to the objective world, critical and skeptical, but also truly intersubjective? The trauma culture, trauma script thing just is a veil right now.
But how can we be truly intersubjective?
I think by being resistant to ready-made forms of empathy.
But you mentioned confession. That is an ancient or very old form of therapy in many ways. Don't we
Expression of
need
religiosity. I don't know if it's therapy. Like Augustine's Confessions actually were the first, if you like, foray into the creation of inner life. Like action in the ancient world was all of if you want to call the individual the agent, the hero, the mythic hero is determined by external action. It's with Augustine that you have this Christian idea that there's an internal life with an important arc that can, of sin and then guilt and confession and revelation that can be shared through language. It's a great breakthrough, but um, we are unconsciously aping this form of confession that actually has no community, because liberalism and centrism are instrumental ideologies. And at least Augustine believed that he was entering into a Christian community, giving people a model for belief that could unite them. Today's suffering is all about look at me, look at me. Today's confession is all about look at me, see me, recognize me. I am doing this. I am suffering. This is why people say, like, oh, I feel so seen. This kind of seeing is about being in a specular, like, hall of mirrors with the other. The other just becomes a mirror and reflects on us how we want to be seen as people possessed of an inner life, people who have suffered, people have recovered. We have all suffered. And if you look at we have all been traumatized. We can't be human without being traumatized. The great British psychoanalyst G.W. Winnicott talked about how birth is a process of being weaned from the maternal womb, actually, from the womb, actually. So every step of establishing some kind of autonomy means breaking from this idea that we're enclosed in this cocoon, this uterine cocoon of nurturing and mirroring. And so you have this idea now, I find on social media, especially among the younger generation. I should actually say the older generation is just as bad, where we see social media as just as merely a mirror, not a space where we recognize the otherness of others, but also our universal shared commonality, which has to do with class solidarity. In fact, if you live in a mirror world, there is no
I gotta stop real quick because she's making a lot of good points in my opinion, but she keeps continuing on and going. And I don't want to kind of like I want to speak to a couple of things that she was saying. And it's interesting to me that she does not subscribe to what I would call a collective personality. She doesn't believe that you can know the other. She doesn't believe in this concrete view of people. Even when she talks about the confessions from, I guess what was that, Augustine. And so she was like, well, that there's no community in that internal experience. I'm not necessarily so familiar with Augustine, but to me, you know, in my understanding of the development of psychology or understanding of personal experience, it makes sense to me that these things that may be normal now, people didn't necessarily recognize always throughout all of history to say, oh, you
Right.
have a personal experience. Oh, there's this thing called shame. Because there are people who don't believe in shame and guilt. They're just kind of like these things that just happen or these flashes in their life that they kind of try to ignore or something like that.
Well,
I just found that to be interesting.
yeah, it's just funny. Denial is real. I just like actually think it's humorous where people try to look at the world in a way without morality. They use language that's not moral, but they live in a way that is moral, and it's always funny to see people try to navigate the two. And I think she really is pointing out a huge part where a lot of people, at least currently, haven't really developed to a point where they're so secure in themselves that they've been able to have enough self-esteem and general identity to where they can form all that on their own and hold integrity in their own values, their own ideas without having that constant affirmation from other people. Like she's using the word visibility and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, visibility is good." It's like, "Yeah, I feel seen." I'm like, "But not only seen, they feel approved. They feel approved. They want approval. They don't want to
Mm,
just they
right.
don't want to have other people just reflect back to them. They do want that too, but they want the reflection to come back with positive emotions, positive affirmations, actual approval of who they are, what they think, what they're doing. They want to know that they're both right as people and right in what they're doing and saying enough to where other people still like them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think for me another interesting piece about that is the mentality that she talks about. She says it's an instrumental mentality. And and I can go back to figure out the exact words that she meant that she used. I don't but the way that I hear it and receive it is like she's talking about a collective mentality, in my opinion. When she's talking about that absence of self, that when she because I already have some history about how she feels about the difference between a liberal and a leftist. When she says liberal, it also sounds like a conservative to me. They really sound like the same thing in the sense that they're not differentiating themselves from the world. That's kind of like what I gather from it. Yes, I'm not going to worry about me. The world moves better when we do this. So let's just do the thing that makes the world better without reference to individuals. And that's a ridiculous take to me, but people do this often.
All the time. Yes.
I feel like, wow, and I think that she understands that. And that's what's fascinating to me about her, even as a leftist. I love that part.
Nice.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I definitely think she's trying to make some sense of it and trying to put it together. I do think some of her definitions mix, but I think she's at least speaking to what she sees. So I like that. She's trying to be as honest as possible.
Yeah, true. Let me kick it off again.
There is no solidarity with others. There's no class. There's only this kind of specular, insular self that finds other monadic, specular, insular selves. And we're all like disco balls that just reflect on each other. This, I mean, this is not a good form of sociality. There's something so antisocial about and identity politics. And it just leads me to despair because right now, within the terrible politics of the United States, you have the far right, represented by Trump, attacking wokeness and identity politics on the liberal left, which is more liberal. There's the voice of the left when it comes to attack identity politics is immediately construed as being in alignment with Trump. And I find in liberal institutions, nonprofits, universities, professional organizations, people are actually doubling down on identity politics, although voices of dissent are rising. Vivek Chibber and I are prominent leftists who criticize this thing. The way that we are excoriated on social media is unbelievable. And I think we both fairly have thick skins, but I'm really shocked, still continually shocked and disappointed by the knee jerk ad hominem attacks that anyone from the left receives when we try to criticize these formations, these liberal ideological formations. When Vivek's interview came out on Doomscroll about, it was woke over. I don't like to use that term because I think it is a term of the right. That's why I prefer to use identity politics or even trauma culture. People, some people with PhDs just posted, on social media, "fuck Chibber," as if that were an argument. Um,
Well, this brings us to your book on the professional managerial class because you're talking about them,
yeah.
right?
Uh,
Who are they? Just quickly.
well, right now we think of them. Right now, they're college-educated elites who are liberals, who believe that they have a kind of professional neutrality that makes them superior to other people. They come. Their formation today really comes out of a post 1968 social movement consolidation of their ideology within the professions. In 1900, perhaps there were real progressives within the professional class, which was very, very small. They made up about 3% of the workforce. Today, they make up about 25% of the workforce. And the most elite strata graduate from Ivy League universities, elite universities, they're in the law firms, they're in medical profession. They're people who think that they've mastered a neutral set of tools that allow them to give the best solutions to social problems. Thomas Piketty has defined them as being more the Brahmin left, and their opposition is the mercantile right. This is a good way of understanding the war between Harvard and Trump right now. But the war between Harvard and Trump masks the greater war between the capitalist and the worker. There were just statistics out that came out last week that said that 60% of the American population is unable to satisfy minimum life requirements. 60%. And I think the next level up, which are, maybe the next 20%, are having difficulties and maintain their life requirements, but through credit. So we're so these the it's you could say that the fight between the professional elites and the mercantile right is a fight in a minority still, and that there are two different kinds of billionaires: the right-wing billionaires like Peter Thiel, and the liberal billionaires like the Pritzkers of Chicago.
Is it intra-class?
You could say that it's intra-class among the professional elites in terms of their allegiance to capital. Yeah.
Okay,
But
yeah.
both sides, both sorts of billionaires, liberals and right-wing billionaires, want to protect capital at all costs, which is why someone like Bernie Sanders was equally excoriated by Democrats and Republicans. Although Trump said, "I like Bernie, I kind of respect him," because I think that he recognized that Sanders.
That was a lot, so I just wanted to cut it just to see if you had anything that you wanted to add on that part.
She has a lot to say, and she had a lot of premises that I think were baseless. But she just noticed a trend, and I appreciate the fact that she's like, "Oh, look, there is a trend of there being a lot of differences between the right and the left, and a lot of disagreement between people who have things versus people who don't have things, and it's those are real divisions, and they have real issues. In the sense, like I hear where she's coming from. I'm like, all right, yes, those are real differences, and those two sides are are at war. There's lots of actual conflict going on.
Yeah, I mean, but when I hear her argument, I didn't really hear her argument for elites versus the worker. I hear her argument as the war between two different kinds of elites. That's well, I don't even know if I would call
Agree?
them
Sure,
elites, right? 'Cause I don't know what I call an elite. I don't think I would
I think
call
so.
him an elite. I'm not necessarily. I'm not. You said so. You said you would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he fits into the highest form of intellectual elites, but I would think that he qualifies just based on class itself. I'm like, he has enough money to be in the 0.01%. I'm like, when they talk about being the highest of the highest, I'm like, he qualifies. He's done that. He went to Wharton. He did the things.
And see, I guess if I looked at elite as a number, then that'd be one thing. But I'm not really thinking of elite as a number or dollar amount of wealth. I'm thinking, I guess so. For this argument, yes, I'll accept that, right? But I think what she's speaking to is the difference in, it's like a culture difference between these two kinds of people. It's like
Yeah.
the educated elite, Harvard elite, like she's saying, and there's just the, hey, I just worked at this business for a long time and made a lot of money type of hard work. I don't even want to say hard work. It's not that I'm saying hard work, it's just the scrappy, the doer mentality type. There's the
Yeah.
ethical, no,
Practical.
it's not ethical. The intellectual elite and then the doer, the practical elite. That's kind of like
Hmm.
what the differentiation that I'm seeing from what she's saying. And I think I think that she's just using, just like I do, using these methods of explaining things as tools. Because for me, I do think there's something there. This is why I'm kind of following along with what she's saying. You know me, I use the Jungian, I use the Keegan, I use Fromm, I use Rom as or Rand as tools because they have systems and it lets me create some kind of common language to use with somebody to say, "Hey, here's a thing." And I don't really wanna
Hmm.
come up with a new way to say the same thing again, like a lot of people tend to do. Like, "Hey, I invented this new thing." No, you didn't. You just explaining the same thing in your
You just
way, and
described it
it's really not
your
new.
way.
but yeah, but to me, she's using them as tools, and it's like the same patterns, though. It's the same patterns of just this concretistic way of approaching life, or uh, a way of just explaining some of these majorities that and groups that we see in society. These orientations toward the world. So that was one other part that I forgot. She had said that because I don't think you caught any. I haven't really put out any of my new stuff. I'm still working on a video on trying to tie these things together with more of a developmental evolutionary or developmental psychology. And when she talks about the birth of a person coming from a child, like even you probably remember. So remember that book, Escape from Freedom, that I was
Mhm.
talking about with From, and it's the same pattern. It's the same thing as far as, and I think Jung talks about this as well. It's the whole idea of being born and living as a subject. The world is the subject, right? And as you get older, you go through these, Keegan says it too, these subject object shifts to where it's those like, oh, I can make decisions about the world. I am not the world is not me. I can make decisions
Exactly.
about things. Those things are objects. And as you
That's
take these
differentiation.
steps up in your development, right, you differentiating. And differentiation is equivalent to individuation in Jung's definition,
Yeah.
right? And so you're individuating from that piece, that motherly bond. I experience the world is subject to our experience the world as object. And that growth, people don't always take the full track. They hang on to that life is or world is a subject thing because they haven't differentiated themselves from the world.
There you
Right.
go.
So I just find that part of it fascinating.
Yeah, it's
And
fascinating. It's always a process of development, and no one's gonna force you to do it. So, yeah, let's check it out.
cool, cool.
Sanders had a kind of authenticity that had no screen. I mean, Sanders has disappointed us in many ways, but he's unscripted. Look at the rest of the Democrats. They can't actually answer a simple question without having a focus group or a screen of consultants tell them the right things to say. They are the most um, manicured people in the world. And, there's a popular skepticism and I would say even hatred of this kind of lack of spontaneity, lack of authentic human experience. And so, whatever you want to say about Trump, he uses a very simple language and he connects on some deep emotional level, and that deep emotional level is right now connected to the hatred of 65% of Americans who didn't go to college, of the rest of Americans who did go to college, who pretend to speak this language that no one understands. Of course, 30 of the people who go to college, most of them just want to get a job and get on with their lives. But it's that elite strata who dominate graduate schools, who are in the professions, who speak this completely artificial language of identity and of and of trauma culture. It is very, very, very um, terrifying to see how insular that world is.
So the working class is more alienated from the affect of elite culture rather than the elitism itself, rather than the billionaires such as Trump.
No, I feel no, the working class is it's difficult. They're disorganized, but they know and they feel that they're being ripped off and exploited. Not just at work, but also in their health, in their consumption habits. Private equity is taking over every single aspect of American life, right? From hospital care, from to education, to the financialization of systems. And so people know that they're being exploited. People know that the system is unfair, but you have like raw exploitation on the part of Trump and the right wing, a kind of libertarian Nietzscheanism, Ayn Randianism, and then you have the soft exploitation of people who are, in the professional strata who feel that they know better. So would you be rather be exploited by people who are just naked Nietzscheans, or people who are smarmy do-gooders who are picking your pocket but telling you how to recycle your cans? I don't know. There's well, I do know, but the
But to me, that's perfect. This is why I like this person.
I mean, it's just a mischaracterization. Like it's a fine generalization. Abuse does exist. People are using their power poorly. There are people out there who are doing it blatantly, bluntly, openly, and then there are people who are doing it in a much more subtle way. I'm like, sure, yes, you can abuse power lots of ways. And people who are being abused, they know it. They can't do anything about it because that's how systems work. But yes, they do get to participate. I mean, they do get to realize like, oh, this isn't working out for me. This isn't working for me at all. It's almost like I don't have power in the system. Nope. No, you don't.
Yes, right. So I am aligned with her, even though I don't agree with her. The thing that I think differentiates me from her perspective, and I don't know how we're going to get there, and I don't think that we get there in this conversation. She takes the perspective, and this is one thing I would like to help people with, the perspective that there's no there's no responsibility for people for making decisions. This is what differentiates people in my mind. You can say that there's the Trump crowd, the Trump crowd that she's talking about, the Nietzschean and Ayn Rand libertarian. There's an assumption that, hey, you're supposed to get yours, I got mine,
Hmm.
right? And the other people that she's talking about, the liberals, are like, you should get yours. I'm really, really trying to help you get yours, and I don't, I really, really care, but I don't. Maybe I might take a little money here and take a little money there. To me, that you can see that in society. But I think to me, she takes the position that anybody to me who takes the position of worker versus elite, they're not really recognizing that there must be some assumption of autonomy, some assumption of agency here.
Right.
This is what makes me, even though I don't like the way she's characterizing Ayn Rand and Donald Trump or whatever that group is that she's talking about, I am aligned with that group in the sense that, yes, it's your damn responsibility. If I put out a product and it's not valuable to you, don't pay for it. That's how I know that this is not good. This is how I know I wasted my money on my investment. You know what
Right.
I'm
Feedback.
saying? But she's like, "Well, people know that they're being taken advantage of," and it's like, "Yeah, but they need people who solve problems." And for as analytical and diagnostic as she may be, people like her don't solve problems, in my opinion. They
Well,
they're
she's not
not
actually
problem
solving this
solvers.
problem.
They don't
She's
solution.
not even understanding this problem. She's she's definitely not solving it. It's not even on her list of things to do today.
Duh. But that's but that to me is those, and I'm very much generalizing here, but people who talk like this, they don't assume that there's a responsibility from the person as an agent in their interactions with corporations and their interactions with people with money. They just assume that, oh, that person is insignificant. They really don't matter. You matter. It just may not. There's a magnitude. As long as the magnitude is like
Exactly.
equal to the size of your life, what the hell does it matter? You know what I'm
There you
saying?
go. You gotta shrink your scale and
So
you'll be fine. Like, this is my scope. It matters right here. But in the grand
yeah,
scheme of things, of all of human
exactly.
history, no, no, of course it doesn't matter.
Right, right. But, like, that's what I was trying to say when I'm aligned with her, but I don't agree with her. So,
Right. She's really just talking about power dynamics. She really is just saying, like, hey, look, people on the right can be really
true.
strong and authoritarian, and they can say, oh, I got mine, you get yours. Or people on the left can be like, hey, I want us all to get there together, but while we're gonna get there, we're gonna need everybody's stuff. Give me your stuff, and I'm gonna make decisions for you because I'm smarter than you, and then that's gonna help us get there. So, like, the person in the middle is like, I'm either getting my stuff taken this person so they can help me, or by this other person who says, I'm not gonna allow you to have other things because I'm gonna get it myself. So I'm either being outcompeted on one side or being actively convinced to give my stuff away on the other side. I'm like, yeah, people are after your stuff. That does exist. There is real
Yes,
competition in life, and
yes.
people with power are taking it. They are taking the stuff. They have power. That is what they're using their power for. And so, yes, some people are in the middle in the sense of being actively disenfranchised and being taken advantage of. Not all power is being used that way, but a lot is.
But I mean, and the one pushback I would give to you, Josh, is that it's not my job to make a decision and figure out what decision you should make as well. Like,
Right.
when I try to take your stuff, you're supposed to say, "No, this is the amount of the stuff that you can have for the thing that you're offering." That's your
There we
job.
go. Negotiation.
Yeah. That if I were to use this conversation to figure out what's the difference between me and that person, that's the differentiation between me and that left perspective.
Nice.
Get a little bit more real quick.
But the question is like, there is a deep, legitimate, popular hatred of liberal professional class. The fact that there is no political organization that can speak to that from the liberal side is part of the incredible power of American capitalism.
Is it reciprocal? Does the PMC hate the idea of the swarthy mass of like
I do think so. They would never admit to it, but yeah, yeah, because this is what Hillary Clinton called them, the deplorables. Um, Harris just simply didn't address them. It came out recently that one of her political consultants said we can't talk about economic struggle because that would make us look like losers. Like they literally think poor people are losers because they've been initiated through the meritocracy. They all went to the right schools. They got great grades. They were like raising their hands. So in the front of class. So anyone who gets left behind is to them existentially like deserving of their fate. And the only way to rescue those people is if they help them so that they are still the agent of all political action. And so what you call charities is what we have as
So that's exactly what you just said to me, Josh.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I mean,
what she
I think
just
that
said is
lines up.
exactly what you just said.
Yes, these are some clear power dynamics. She was just like, "Hey, this is how this is working, and people don't like it. Like, it is working this way, and people hate it." So yeah, we agree. I
Yeah.
think those those things line up right there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I was gonna stop it right there, right? But I thought that's an interesting conversation at the end. The one thing I took from, like, the last thing she said, the idea that people who went to school are the representatives of a meritocracy. Like, I don't even believe in this meritocracy thing necessarily, but going to school has nothing to do with merit to me. You you went to school, you know, but you have to do the things. Like I know a lot of people go to school and they make a lot of money, and I get that part. But you have to do things. That's that's the merit is in doing things and having accomplishments. That's the
Right.
merit. And school is
Practically,
an
yeah.
accomplishment, don't get me wrong. It could be part of it. You say what?
Practically, yes, but that's when she's referring to it, she's referring it to the old way of to where that's not that. But I hear what you're saying because you're thinking literally, which is the real answer.
Yeah,
Like,
and also, as you say that, it becomes clear to me that this whole everybody goes to college thing was not always a thing neither, right? College was
no,
reserved for people who had some sort of promise,
right. And
right?
it anyway,
So
it it significantly changed from that because it became a business and they stopped doing all the skills focused pointing of like, all right, let's make sure we have jobs for these people who are graduating. Let's make sure the people who are hiring, let's teach people those skills so they can actually have those things. And when that got decoupled from when college stopped being associated with business, then we started getting a lot more college is the business. And now everybody has to have a degree. Everyone. We're going to market to everyone. Everyone gets an education now.
everyone gets an education, but education in and of itself, the education has to pay off. Like people don't really
Yes.
make do that part of it. It's like you
No.
if you go to if you go to college and you paid more for a degree than you're actually going to make back on it, that's not a great investment. That's not a smart
Right.
decision.
That's not an investment. That's an actual liability. You actively gave away money so that you could pay more money. It's a bad choice. It's a bad risk to reward. You should not do it. But it is where we are now, and it's super frustrating where that's not even brought up when they're, like, in high school and like, "Oh, what do you wanna be when you grow up?" It's like, "Not poor. I don't wanna be in debt." Is that is that an option? Let's have
Right,
one of those.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
already poor. I'm
Or
starting
people get
behind
into
8 ball.
these
I don't wanna be poorer. It's crazy.
It's true, man, but there becomes this keeping up with the Joneses aspect of going to college too. You know,
Yep.
there's this thing of white people go to college. I mean, I heard people make this argument where people say, because I don't necessarily advise that all kids go to college just universally or
Right.
unilaterally, whatever that. I don't advise that. That does not make sense to me. But some people are like, their argument is simply, it's something simple like white people go to college. And so
Yes.
therefore, college is important. And so therefore, you should go to college or your kids should go to college. And
Right.
it's like, if you could literally get training in a job that nobody wants to do, make a lot of
Mhm.
money, and learn the stuff online in your free time while you're
Yeah.
retired, damn near.
Right. I mean, if learning is your goal, no one is stopping you from learning. The library is open, the information is free, Google exists. So there's no reason for you not to learn. But when people pretend like if I just have a degree, all will be fine, I'm like, that is not how this works. I agree that it could have worked that way at some point in time, but wasn't in my lifetime, wasn't in my parents' lifetime. So I want kids to have a much
Right.
clearer idea, like, you need to be useful to somebody. You need to understand how business works. You need to learn that early as you can. You need to start getting as many of those business skills as you can growing up instead of waiting for college to give it to you because people who have those skills aren't in college. That's not how college works. That's not what it is for. It would be great if it was, but that's not how it actually works. But it just interests me back in the day that, Dr. Carl Jung and all the rest of these people were so mad at the aristocracy. And they're like, these people who just have institutionalized power and ridiculous wealth are abusing their power and they're doing terrible things. And they're pretending that their social caste is merit. And they're using that idea and they're like, oh, this meritocracy and like education is can be the same. They can go to a school that has all the right social classes in it and has all the highest accolades and because everybody thinks it is the best just by being associated with the school you can have the same kind of social network and that carte blanche approach to life to where you can just doesn't matter if you're good or if you're bad or if you have a skill or don't have a skill as long as you have the network you can just use that as your merit and that's a new meritocracy. I'm like, hmm, I never thought of using that word that way. Okay. That was that is a that is an interesting historical, reference. I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, to me, that was a misuse of the word meritocracy. Or
Yeah,
maybe
you
she was
should
just
not use the
explaining
word
how she
merit.
thinks it works.
I'm like, "That's not how merit works at all. None of that has related to any of the things, but I understand why people were angry about it. Okay. That's a clearer thing because 'cause I've had that argument with someone before, and they're just like, "You don't understand meritocracy or where it comes from, and you think meritocracy is okay and you're part of the problem." I'm like, I mean, you just said that doing things is wrong. So I don't understand how that's possible that I can be part of the problem. I think we have different viewpoints altogether, but you can't explain yours. And I don't know what you're trying to say. You you just told me that doing the right thing is wrong. So I don't have anything else to say. I don't know where we go from here. This is a strange conversation.
I mean, look, I think many things can be understood if we stop separating them and combining them from the standpoint of going to school to become someone who can be productive is a full motion. But
Right?
just because I went to school didn't give me meritocracy. I mean merit. But if I went to
Mhm.
school to enable me to produce more, then that gets me the full both sides of the stick. So I
Right.
think I'm kind of this in terms of the stick. Everybody wants to grab an end of the stick. We need to start picking up the stick. We need to see
Right.
the full range of the
Yes.
stick.
Yes. It's gotta be
Uh,
both intent and something actual. We gotta
right.
literally get there.
And why we that's why intellectuals are trash. Well, let
They
me
can be. That that's why there are some intellectuals who are
Gad said I saw a Gad said clip when he talked about this. I think this is common knowledge. They don't have to pay for their ideas being wrong. In business, you
Mhm.
have to pay for your idea being wrong. You can say the most
Right.
ridiculous thing in a university as an intellectual, and it doesn't. Look at Ibram X. Kendi. Actually, the more ridiculous things that you say, the more money you may be able to make because there's somebody who wants to believe it. You know what I'm
There you
saying?
go.
So it's just ridiculous, man.
Yes. They're like, "I'm exposed to something new, and therefore it's valuable." I'm like, "I don't know if it is valuable. Have we used it for something? What is it valuable for? To who is it valuable? I don't know if we can just say that just, on its face."
Yeah, man.
Yeah, people just do it. It's a mistake.